Imagine this. You wake up one morning and feel it before your eyes even open. An invisible weight pressing down on your chest. There's no disaster, no fire to put out, no enemy to fight. And yet, something is wrong. You're exhausted, but you just slept. You feel behind, but you've been trying so hard. You want to scream, but nothing specific is wrong. You're doing everything right, and still, something feels off. So you do what you've always done. You get up, you push forward, you perform the ritual: coffee, smile, emails, small talk, deadlines, politeness, pressure. By noon, you've answered 30 messages and ignored one person, yourself. And as the day drags on, an ache forms beneath your skin. A dull, low-frequency hum of anxiety, like your soul is knocking from the inside, asking, "Is this all there is?" But that voice is inconvenient, so you silence it with productivity. More goals, more tasks, more checkboxes, more pretending you're fine. And every time you break down, alone, quietly, you wonder, what's wrong with me? Why can't I handle this like everyone else? But what if that's the wrong question? What if the problem isn't your mindset, your motivation, or your lack of gratitude? What if it isn't depression, laziness, or weakness? What if the problem isn't you? What if the problem is the system? A system that praises burnout and calls it ambition. A system that sells you distraction and calls it happiness. A system that exploits your fear and calls it responsibility. What if you're not broken? What if you're just responding, intelligently, even spiritually, to a world that is? We're told that discomfort means we're not trying hard enough. But what if discomfort is a signal that something deeper is misaligned? You were not born for inboxes and invoices. You were not created to exist on a hamster wheel of obligations while your heart withers. So the question becomes, what if your suffering isn't a personal failure, but a perfectly sane reaction to an insane world? Let's go deeper. Let's unravel how this system was built, how it manipulates psychology, redefines value, and programs you to betray your soul just to fit in. Because before you can break free from the trap, you have to see the bars. The bars are invisible because they've been there your whole life. From the moment you were born, you were dropped into a system that whispered rules you didn't know you were learning. Smile to be liked, achieve to be seen, obey to be safe, perform to be loved. And what began as social conditioning quietly evolved into self-regulation. You didn't need external control anymore. You became your own warden. You believed it was all your fault. That if you felt empty, disconnected, anxious, it was because something inside you was flawed. But in truth, you were reacting exactly as you were trained to, in a system designed to extract, not nurture. Society's invisible curriculum. You were told to chase success, but never taught how to define it on your own terms. You were taught to be productive, but not how to be present. You were praised for being obedient, but not for being authentic. This isn't random, it's design. The modern industrial system, shaped by centuries of economic and political evolution, was built to value utility over humanity. As machines replaced labor, humans had to become machine-like to keep up. The reward for compliance? A paycheck, a title, a fleeting sense of enough. The cost? Your aliveness. Jung and the shadow of conformity. Carl Jung spoke of the collective unconscious, a shared reservoir of beliefs, instincts, and symbols that shape how we see ourselves and others. Within that collective psyche lies the persona, the mask we wear to function in society. But every mask casts a shadow. When we over-identify with our roles, employee, parent, achiever, hero, we push the unwanted parts of ourselves into the unconscious, the sensitive, the rebellious, the intuitive, the wild. The system reinforces this. Don't cry, don't question, don't feel too much, don't slow down, and so we fracture, and then we forget. until one day we wake up as strangers to ourselves, dressed in success, starving for authenticity. Nietzsche and the lie of obedience, Friedrich Nietzsche, warned of a culture shaped by herd morality, where truth is not what is true, but what is useful to the group's stability. In such a world, the individual loses their compass. They surrender their instincts for the comfort of belonging. You weren't taught to trust your gut. You were taught to trust authority, to trust systems, to trust what everyone else is doing, even if your soul screams otherwise. Nietzsche didn't see this as weakness. He saw it as tragedy, the slow erasure of the self beneath layers of conformity. Huxley's dystopia of distraction. Aldous Huxley, in Brave New World, imagined a society not controlled by fear, but by pleasure and stimulation. People didn't need to be imprisoned. They were pacified, entertained, flooded with dopamine until they forgot what it meant to feel anything real. Sound familiar? Scroll, buy, consume, smile, repeat. The system doesn't demand your terror. It prefers your numbness. Because a person who is numb is controllable. They won't rebel. They'll self-soothe. They'll blame themselves for their pain and keep chasing whatever product promises relief. Viktor Frankl and the Search for Meaning. In Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, a survivor of the Holocaust, wrote that human beings can endure any suffering if they believe it has meaning. But what happens in a culture that strips life of depth? You're told to pursue happiness, not meaning. Pleasure, not purpose. Comfort, not courage. And when you inevitably feel hollow, you're told to work harder, smile bigger, buy more, hustle louder. But the truth is simpler and more subversive. You don't feel broken because you're weak. You feel broken because you were never meant to live like this. The system didn't ask what you needed. It told you what you should be, and you've been chasing that illusion ever since. But now you're beginning to see it. The quiet lie behind every productivity hack. The emptiness behind every achievement badge. The suffering masked as normal life. The question now is, what is this doing to us, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, beneath the surface? Let's explore the unseen consequences that so many carry but few can name. You wake up tired, not from lack of sleep, but from pretending. You go through your day with a smile stretched across your face like armor, completing tasks that feel meaningless, performing a version of life that looks successful but feels vacant. And you wonder why everything feels heavy. You wonder why rest doesn't feel restful, why joy feels unreachable, why you can't stop thinking about escaping, even when there's nowhere else to go. This is not weakness. This is not laziness. This is not a personal failure. This is the system quietly dismantling your inner world. The death of meaning. One of the most profound consequences of living in a system that values productivity over purpose is the erosion of meaning itself. You are told your worth is measured by output, so you hustle, you grind, you build. But as you climb, you begin to notice every milestone feels increasingly hollow. The promotion, the car, the perfect schedule, the followers, they land and then vanish like vapor. Why? Because they weren't rooted in your essence. They were assigned to you, templates of success given by a culture that profits from your chase. And so you run faster. But all you're chasing is a mirage. The result? A soul that no longer knows what it values, only what it should value. Chronic anxiety and emotional numbness. When your nervous system is constantly bombarded with stimulation, comparison, pressure, and surveillance, it doesn't have time to rest. It only has time to adapt. So it does what it must. It becomes hyper-vigilant. You scan for threats, emails, deadlines, judgments, or it goes numb. You detach, you scroll, you self-soothe through consumption. This is not weakness, it's neurological survival. But over time, your capacity for authentic feeling begins to shrink. Joy feels fleeting, sadness feels dangerous, stillness feels intolerable. And so, you stay in motion, Not because you're ambitious, but because you're afraid of what might surface if you stop. Disconnection from self and others. In a system that trains you to perform, authentic connection becomes rare. You present your curated self to the world. Others do the same, and everyone silently wonders why they feel so alone. You attend meetings, parties, Zoom calls, group chats, and leave feeling emptier than before, because true intimacy requires presence, not performance. But performance is what the system trains you to do best. You're surrounded by people, yet unseen. You're applauded for being strong, yet feel fragile. You're liked, but not known. This isn't social failure, it's cultural design. Learned helplessness. Eventually, a deeper shift happens, one so subtle it's almost invisible. You stop believing things can be different. You try therapy, a new job, a new partner, a better routine, a cleaner diet, a productivity app, and for a while, it helps. But the ache returns, the emptiness reappears, and you start to internalize a lie so many quietly carry. Maybe it's just me, but it's not. You're not responding poorly to life. You're responding appropriately to a life that was never designed to support your humanity. The system wasn't built to make you whole. It was built to make you useful. And slowly, your deepest dreams, the ones that once lit you up, get filed under unrealistic. That's not depression. That's a soul adapting to captivity. The silent scream. There comes a moment where you look at your life and feel it. The quiet scream inside. The one that says, I can't keep doing this. And you look around, and no one else seems to be screaming. So you mute it. Again. But the scream is truth. The scream is your real self, buried alive under roles, routines, and responsibilities. And the longer it's ignored, the more your body speaks on its behalf. Panic attacks, insomnia, chronic fatigue, dissociation, not as pathology, but as resistance. Your body remembers what your mind was trained to forget. You weren't meant to live like this. The consequences are everywhere. In our hospitals, in our classrooms, in our relationships, in our mirrors. But before healing can begin, we must confront the root, not in ourselves, but in the system that taught us to abandon ourselves. So what does breaking free look like? Not rebellion in the streets, but revolution in the soul. Let's talk about that next. It begins not with a roar, but with a whisper. Not with burning it all down, but with finally listening to the voice you've silenced for so long. The one that says, this isn't working. This isn't who I am. This isn't life. That whisper is your rebellion. Because in a system that feeds on your disconnection, remembering who you are is an act of revolution. Step 1. Question the frame. Every system thrives on invisibility. It only works if you believe it's natural. So the first rebellion is awareness. Ask yourself, who told me what success looks like? Who benefits from me staying exhausted? When did I learn to feel guilty for resting? Why do I feel more valuable when I'm producing? These questions don't break the system, but they break its spell. Because once you see the structure, you stop blaming yourself for struggling inside it. And that shift, from self-blame to system awareness, is where freedom begins. Step 2. Stop performing. One of the system's greatest tricks is convincing you that your worth must be earned. Through productivity, through politeness, through perfection. So stop. Let your no be unpolished. Let your rest be unapologetic. Let your truth be inconvenient. You don't need to be digestible. You need to be real. This isn't easy. You will feel guilty. You will feel selfish. You will fear disappointing others. But what you're actually doing is disappointing the system, and that is progress. Step 3. Reclaim your body. The system disconnects you from your own rhythms. It replaces hunger with schedules, fatigue with caffeine, sadness with scrolling. Rebellion looks like this: sleeping when you're tired, eating when you're hungry, crying when you're full of grief, creating when your soul stirs. Reconnection is radical because when you stop outsourcing your intuition to algorithms and authority figures, you begin to remember what it means to be alive. Step 4. Choose meaning over metrics. The system wants you to chase what's measurable. Followers, grades, salaries, likes, titles. But your soul doesn't care about any of that. It craves what is meaningful, what is sacred, what makes you feel something real. So ask yourself, what would I still do if no one ever saw it? What nourishes me, even if it earns nothing? What do I long to give, not just achieve? This is how you shift from being a consumer of life to a participant in it. Step 5. Create micro-freedoms. You don't need to quit your job, burn down your life, or flee to a cabin in the woods. Rebellion lives in small, daily ruptures. Turning off your phone instead of numbing with it, saying no without explanation, leaving an email unanswered, taking a walk with no destination, sitting in silence, even when it feels unbearable. These acts are subtle, but their impact is seismic, because every time you choose presence over performance, connection over consumption, truth over trend, you chip away at the system's hold on your mind. And eventually, it doesn't own you anymore. This is the rebellion, not loud, but honest, not dramatic, but disruptive, not glamorous, but holy. Because in a culture that demands more, faster, louder, you become dangerous the moment you slow down, speak truthfully, and walk away from the noise. You don't need to escape your life. You need to return to it. And in doing so, you return to yourself. Let's go one step deeper. What happens when you truly see the system for what it is, and yourself for who you've always been beneath it? That's the final realization. There comes a moment when you stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "Who decided this is how life should be?" That moment is sacred, because beneath the noise, beneath the guilt, beneath the thousands of internalized expectations, you finally hear it. You were never the problem. The problem was always the system, the metrics, the molds, the machines, the endless doing, the constant proving, the erasure of soul in the name of success. And once you see it clearly, a deeper truth emerges, one so simple, so terrifying, and so freeing that it changes everything. You are not broken. You are responding intelligently to a broken world. The lie of personal failure. The system survives by convincing you that your exhaustion is personal, that your inability to keep up is a moral flaw, that your craving for rest is laziness, that your ache for something deeper is unrealistic. But it's not. Those reactions, burnout, anxiety, grief, apathy, aren't dysfunctions. They're signals. They're your nervous system saying, "I was not made for this." They're your soul saying, "Something sacred has been stolen from me." And the truth is, it has. Your time, your attention, your curiosity, your stillness, your wonder, taken, monetized, minimized, but it's not too late. The system thrives on amnesia. It needs you to forget who you were before you were useful, before you were polished, before you knew what being productive meant. Because who you were then was free, curious, chaotic, creative, wild, imperfect, emotional, whole. And that self, that real self, it's still here, under the systems, under the masks, under the noise, waiting. You're not alone in this. You're not the only one who feels the weight. You are part of a silent global grief, millions of people privately mourning a life they were promised but never found. You are part of a quiet rebellion, people waking up in coffee shops, at bus stops, on therapy couches and yoga mats, whispering, "This can't be it. There has to be more." And there is. But it begins not with escape. It begins with remembrance. The paradigm shift. The ultimate truth is not just that the system is flawed. It's that you don't have to belong to it. You can participate without being consumed. You can contribute without being exploited. You can succeed without sacrificing your soul. You can work without worshiping work. You can rest without apologizing. You can live by a deeper rhythm, a rhythm that honors your body, your truth, your slowness, your joy. The system doesn't want that, but your soul does. The final invitation. So here it is. Step off the stage. Put down the performance. Refuse the script. Reclaim your breath. Let the world spin faster and faster if it must. You will walk slower. You will speak softer. You will listen deeper. And in doing so, you will remember that you were never here to compete, or perform, or chase. You were here to be, fully, messily, beautifully. You. The problem isn't you. The system just forgot what a human being actually is. And you're here to remind it, not with noise, not with rage, but with presence. Welcome back.